Okay, so today we're talking about the unit circle. This is from your unit circle worksheet 3.3. Let's start with looking at problem number 1. Okay, problem number 1 says for each of the angles, identify the corresponding point on the unit circle. Well, you should all have a unit circle as we created one in class. If not, Google a unit circle because you're really going to need one for your homework and for your test. Number 1 says find for each of the angle, in this case our angle is theta is equal to 45 degrees, identify the corresponding point on the unit circle. So on the unit circle, we want to identify where 45 degrees is. And then they're asking me for the point. So here is the point given at 45 degrees. Square root of 2 over 2, comma, square root of 2 over 2. And if you remember from when we created the unit circle in class, these values are all given to us, or we figure them out by using the properties of either 45, 45, 90 triangles or 30, 60, 90 triangles. So this part was simply, can you identify what the point is at the given angle? Next problem says for each of the angles, calculate the sine, cosine, and tangent values using the unit circle. So there's some things that we need to know in order to figure out what the sine, cosine, and tangent are. When we think about the unit circle, when we think about a triangle, let's say we choose 30 degrees. If I were to make a right triangle using this, here we have our x length value and our y value. Well, if this is our angle theta, our y is going to be our opposite value, and our x is our adjacent value. If our hypotenuse is 1, then there's some things that we can figure out about our triangle. For example, our cosine of theta is simply our adjacent over our hypotenuse, which is x over 1, which is just x. The sine of theta is opposite over hypotenuse, which is y over 1, which is just y. So for all points on the unit circle, our x value is our cosine of theta, and our y value is our sine of theta. Right, x comma y. Then to find the tangent, we know that the tangent is opposite over adjacent, and that would be just the same as, so it's our y over our x, which is the same as sine over cosine. So now that we reviewed those properties, okay, so let's calculate, or let's find information. Really, there's no calculation involved. 150 degrees is our theta, so let's go ahead and find that angle. Okay, so here I found 150 degrees, or 5 pi over 6, and I have my point. Well, my sine of theta I know is the y, so at that point my y value is 1/2. My cosine of theta is the x. So at this point, my x is square root of 3 over 2. And the tangent of theta I know is my y over my x. Well, there is a shortcut to helping us find this. Instead of taking 1/2 and putting it over negative 3 over 2, we can take just the numerators of both and say this is really 1 over negative square root of 3. Well, I need to rationalize this, and to rationalize that, I'm going to do it right over here off to the side, 1 over negative square root of 3. I would multiply the top and bottom by square root of 3, and I get negative square root of 3 over 3. Okay, last problem that I'm going to do for this homework is number 8, and it says for each of the angles, calculate 6 trigonometric values using the unit circle. We want to get sine, cosine, tangent, cosecant, secant, and cotangent. So I need all that information that we talked about before. For example, that the fact that my y is always going to be my x is always my cosine of theta, and my y is the sine of theta. And that tangent of theta is just y over x. Okay, so it says negative 60 degrees. Well, the nice thing about the unit circle is I could add 360 to negative 60 to find the coterminal angle. But on the unit circle, I can just find the positive value of 60 degrees, and I go straight down from there. And here's the negative value, 300, or the positive coterminal angle, which is 300. So 300 degrees and negative 60 degrees are the same terminal angle. So here, where sinus of theta, I want to use my y. So here at 300 degrees, my y value is a negative square root of 3 over 2. Okay, at cosine of theta, that would be my x value, and my x at 300 is 1/2. And then finally, my tangent is my y over my x, and again, I'm going to use that funky, wonderful shortcut and just do my numerators. So my numerator sine over my numerator cosine. That's negative square root of 3 over 1, and I can just simplify that to negative square root of 3. Then I'm going to go ahead and find my cosecant, my secant, and my cotangent. Well, the cosecant is the inverse of the sine, so I can simply just invert that. That would be negative 2 over the square root of 3. I do need to rationalize that by multiplying the top and bottom by the square root of 3. And when I do that, I'll get negative 2 square root of 3 over 3. Oops, over 3. Yeah. Then for the secant, I can go ahead and do the reciprocal of this, and 2 over 1 becomes, 1 over 2 becomes 2 over 1, or just 2. And then I can do the reciprocal of the tangent for the cotangent. Here, the reciprocal would be negative 1 over the square root of 3. And again, if I were to rationalize that, like I did on the last slide, I would get negative square root of 3 over 3. So really, we have to just find sine, cosine, and tangent, and then use the property, the reciprocal property, for the cosecant, secant, and cotangent. Any questions, you can see me or Mr. Daniels, and have a fun time doing the rest of your homework.